Abosede Adeniwadremi. We are staying with the trial of Nnamdi Kanu at the Federal High Court in Abuja, where the lead counsel has clarified that he was not denied access at the DSS facility. At the resumed sitting before Justice James Omotosho, Kanu Agabi SAN explained that the post made by Aloy Jimako, a member of his team, on social media, suggesting that he was not allowed to see Nnamdi Kanu, was misleading. He admitted to have arrived at the DSS facility alone, but was informed that the names of expected visitors had not arrived. The court was not pleased with the action of Mr. Jimako, who without confirmation made such publication. The judge asked him to refrain from making such allegations and posting court documents online as a legal practitioner. During cross-examination, the prosecution's second witness tendered the death certificate of Ahmed Gulak, a special advisor on political affairs to former President Goodluck Jonathan. He was allegedly killed by suspected IPOB members in 2022. Our senior reporter, Celestina Ria, who has been monitoring developments there, joins me live now from Abuja for more. Celestina, help us better understand this clarification being made by Kanu Agabi SAN and its implication.
Okay, well, about today, we recall that at the last adjourned date, the court adjourned so Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer can confer with him, because they were also have cross-examined the second witness, but his lawyer stood up to say that they've not had time to confer with Mr. Kanu, and they need to ask him some questions in respect to the videos that was played in court at the last adjourned date and some of the statements made by the prosecution's second witness. So it was on that instance the court adjourned to today. So today, the court needed to clarify the post made by one of the Nnamdi Kanu's lawyers, who actually was the lead counsel before Kanu Agabi took over. He made a post saying that DSS had denied Kanu Agabi, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, access to Nnamdi Kanu. But in court today, Mr. Agabi clarified that he was not denied access, as you read from the report that he had gotten to the DSS facility, but the list of visitors had not arrived. And also, he had other engagements, so he went about his duty, but that does not translate to him being denied access. Down to the main course of today, before cross-examination could start, the prosecution asked the court that he needs to finish with the witness before the defendants could take over, which is tendering a certificate, a death certificate of the former aide of Goodluck Jonathan, who died during the course of this incident, which the prosecution has said was caused by alleged suspected members of IPOB. Because at the last adjourned date, the witness had mentioned that the broadcast made by Nnamdi Kanu allegedly incited violence, resulted to the loss of properties and also life. Among those lives was that of Ahmed Gulak. So the prosecution needed to tender that evidence to back up their statement. So they tendered it. So we move about to cross-examination by the defense team. The witness, which is Mr. BBB, a senior officer of the DSS with over 20 years of experience, was asked that what does it make of the solitary confinement of Nnamdi Kanu? Then he said that solitary confinement is not a practice of DSS. He was also asked if the charges are not speculative. He said he did not prepare the charge. He was only in charge of investigation, which is, well, recall that he said that he was among the team that brought Mr. Kanu from Lagos to Abuja when he was brought back to Nigeria in 2021. So he said he was not involved in preparing the charge. But we also recall that the charge were 15 in number, and Justice Binta Nyanku, the judge that previously handled the case, struck out 8, leaving 7 counts. And that 7 count went up to the Supreme Court and now back at the Federal High Court. So, but also, as the cross-examination was going on, Mr. Kanu Agabi asked that the court adjourn, because according to him, there are some documents they need from the police to prove the innocence of the defendants, of their clients rather, which they have not gotten. So they need time for the police to respond to those documents. But the prosecution has objected because the court had granted accelerated hearing in the matter, which means the case ought to go to day or very short adjournment. But Justice James Omotosho said, for the interest of justice, they should allow the defendants have the time with the police and get all the documents they need. And the court adjourned to 21st of May for continuation of hearing.
Celestina, and so what more should we expect in this case now? When next is this coming up for trial, and what other steps are left? How many more witnesses are we likely to have examined in this matter?
Okay, well, the prosecution lawyer, Adegboyega Awomolo, senior advocate of Nigeria, had mentioned that when he objected to the adjournment for today, he mentioned that they had 5 other witnesses lined up ready to testify. That the adjournment that the defendants is seeking is to slow down the process, that this whole trial has a lifespan of over 10 years. And so far, this is the time that progress is being made, apart from when Justice Binta struck out some charges. So now, he said that the defendants is just playing delay tactics. This was according to him. But the court said they should allow them and adjourn to 21st. So 21st of May, will be back in the court, and the defense team will have the opportunity of cross-examining the prosecution's second witness, who is the DSS officer. I believe they will ask him questions in respect to the video, but they posed a question to him today, which is the interview they conducted with Nnamdi Kanu when he was back in Nigeria in 2021, that the interview was not complete, and also the interviewer's face was not shown, just his voice. But the witness said that that is the practice of the DSS, that the only person seen on camera will be the people being interviewed and not the interviewer. And we also recall that the prosecution had tendered certificates of compliance of these recordings that they had submitted and were admitted in court as exhibit. But so far so good. The defendants, as at that time, said they would not object, that they objected rather, but they will give the reasons for objecting to that admissibility of those documents at a later date. So feel maybe it will come up during the cross-examination. So 21st of May, we'll get to know more.
All right, that was all on Nnamdi Kanu's hearing. But going further, still on the hearing of Nnamdi Kanu. Now, the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, as we all know, resumed today at the Federal High Court in Abuja. We all know this. Now, with the defense team scoring major points during the cross-examination of the second prosecution witness. Now, they didn't go further into highlighting how Nnamdi Kanu's Nnamdi Kanu's defense team, rather, in the cross-examination ridiculed, the so-called witness of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And funny enough, this so-called witness is, in quote, a senior officer that have worked with DSS for 20 years. It was very embarrassing. In fact, he turned himself to a clown. Now, let us still go on. Now, Igbere TV actually gave a good reportage on this. They said, Igbere TV report led by the respected legal luminary Kanu Agabi-san. The defense exposed significant contradictions and lapses in the prosecution case. The witness and investigator admitted multiple times that he lacked knowledge of key elements, including whether the charges had been amended or dropped. Now, a so-called witness doesn't even know if the charges against Nnamdi Kanu had been amended or dropped. Further, he said, and whether proper legal procedures were followed in detaining Kanu since 2021. Now, a DSS official, a senior DSS official who has worked for 20 years as a DSS official, as a DSS agent, an agent, security agent for that matter. I thought people who are agents are very intelligent people. I know of the NYPD, in the US, and the rest of them, these powerful agents in the US. Now, an agent is coming out to say that he didn't know, or he doesn't know, if they followed due process in detaining Kanu or not. So you don't know what is due process. That is what you're trying to say. Now, we still continue. Now, during the questioning, the witness confessed to being unaware also that the charges had been pending for almost a decade before Kanu's rendition, and could not confirm whether the IPOB leader had been subjected to prolonged solitary confinement. Please, they should ask this man his name, because he's gonna say he can't still remember his name. It's as simple as that. It can't be like, say, Baba no know wetin dem dey talk about, because definitely this person is gonna tell you, I don't remember my name. Now, the act of solitary confinement is an act that violates international human rights standards. It totally violates. Ima, when we were calling this in solitary confinement, it was sounding like a something very irrelevant. These things are things that are taken seriously in international law. In fact, rounding up this thing, because you've already gotten the news earlier, with the first video I dropped, I think, and I strongly think, that the Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, in as much as the zoo are running away from ICC. Now, ICC supposed they handle the case of this Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, not even the zoo government, because they do not have the capacity, they do not have the right, or whatsoever, the jurisdiction, or whatever you call it, to handle the case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Thank you, and share this video. Share the video and make it go viral. Let it continue to go viral. Kono akpoto kando wa. Mande kwerenu mande ne ekwe ka ha na ahụ ihe ọjọọ a na-eme ndị ka anyị. Thank you once again for joining us, and continue to share to as many groups and platforms as possible. God bless you once again.